For many years now, I've enjoyed pulling together the previous year and reviewing all the stuff that I've built, tools that I've gotten to purchase, and making a community post on the Hand Tool School about all of that. And so this year I thought maybe I would try and do a video instead. So here we go. First up is an air filter. I had previously used this kind of design, but just taped together the filters, and I felt like it was time to step into something a little more permanent. So there's a frame. These are, this design is really just plans copied from the 3D Handyman's repository. I'll put a link in the description. It works well. It is 4 20 by 25 filters, one on each side, of course. There's little toggles here to make changing the filters easy. I've just put on new filters, so hey, everything looks pretty clean. Actually, I tape onto the filter, I tape on this screen printing material, which is easy to vacuum and catches the biggest debris. So that helps make the filters last longer. On top is just a box fan and a little baffle here that I made to try and maintain the airflow. And it's just a big pit inside. The filters are fairly inexpensive. I mean, I think they're like $25 a piece, times 4, of course, $100. That's not great. However, at Home Depot, if you buy 4 or more, they're like $12.50 a piece. So $50 for the 4 filters. And it's worked well. I've been happy with it this year. The big project this year was really just shop improvement, a pair of speaker stands, and a record cabinet. The overall construction of the record cabinet here is the 4 corners are dovetailed together. The 2 shelves are just dadoed in place. And then down on the bottom, I turned some round pieces to make some feet, and then there's leveling feet here. Believe it or not, the basement floor is not very level. The record cabinet is the special thing. The sides are one-piece boards. This is all cherry. The sides are one-piece boards. They have a little bit of figure in them. But yeah, single boards, what I think about 16 inches wide, too big for the planer. So there was a good little bit of cup, and I planed that out by hand with the scrub and smoothed it out. It was work. I really like being able to see from the top all of the grain to make the sort of the half circle of the tree. I don't know how well that shows on camera here, but yeah, one of my favorite parts. Sitting on top of it here is my Audio Technica LP70X turntable, and beneath that is a Denon receiver, something older, a DRA345R. And then I've got a small collection of records. I've really only been collecting like a year and a half, and only buy a few standouts that I don't own digitally or on CD. A really fun feature of the cabinet here was the pull-out shelf. I wanted to be able to, well, have a pull-out shelf to set any records on as I'm, you know, opening the gatefold or whatever in order to put it on. There was a little bit of a hole here, so neat surprise. I dropped some coloring into some epoxy if it'll focus. So I've got a blue dot of epoxy here. And again, this is all cherry. So yeah, it's just a spot to be able to put the record sleeve while getting the vinyl out and putting it on the turntable and that sort of thing. But hey, I don't have to look for a spot to set things down in order to do that. The drawer pull for the shelf is something special. This is a Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser pin from Walt Disney World. And it's obviously not a pin anymore. I've made it into a drawer pull. I have some old speakers that I'm using with the record cabinet, and of course I made some stands here. These are made out of some flame box elder. Honestly, I do not like this wood. I've tried to use it on some other projects and did not enjoy working it, so this is some scrap. I totally cheated and used the circular saw to cut pretty much everything here and just smooth it out. Obviously there are 3 legs holding the top and bottom in place, and the joinery is simply dominoes. So it was a pretty quick project. The top of the speaker stand is just plain as can be. It's just a flat surface. The base is about 10 inches by 10 inches, and it sits about 3 feet tall. The 2 speaker stands are of course the same, though the grain in each of them varies a good bit, so that's nice. But this was just a quick project, and I really just wanted somewhere to put the speakers, didn't care much more than that. So I didn't even put any finish on them. But this all works really well. It's nice to be able to have the music playing, and it's directly in front of my workbench. So this is my view here at the workbench. Just about 5 feet in front of the workbench is the sound system, and hey, I can play some music while I work now. A few other projects from this year. I was able to turn some salt and pepper mills for some friends who are getting married. I'm not particularly excited about this design. I couldn't really come up with anything else I was particularly excited about. These use the crush grind mechanism, and I've used that several times now. It's good, and I definitely would recommend it. I made a small wall shelf for my son. This is cherry with a little piece of walnut in the back. I'm gonna see if I can make my way into his room to get some other video of it, but I'm guessing that everybody knows what a 16-year-old's room looks like and how difficult it'll actually be to get in, so we'll see what happens. If video appears here, we'll all be surprised. I've wanted to work on the base of the tool cabinet for a while, and this summer I was able to find some material to use for sides. I used some offcuts from that and turned a couple of little bowls. These are pretty small, 3 to 4 inches or so, but they have so much figure to them and are just really nice and delicate, and so that's a lot of fun. And I wasn't sure what to do with them, but my friend Janet said she really liked them, so I gifted them to her. The last project of the year was some Christmas gifts for my wife's friends and colleagues, and I did an even worse job of documenting this. I've really only got this one picture showing the start of the process in making these 6 pens, and they use the Wall Street 2 kit from Woodcraft. I don't particularly like that. The blank needs to be turned incredibly thin near the edges, and I just wasn't pleased with how much the brass was showing through on the semi-transparent blanks that she wanted. So I don't think I'll use that kit ever again. That said, my wife was quite thrilled with them, and she thought they looked fantastic, and her friends all love them, so I'm just the overly critical woodworker. So those are the projects that I completed in 2025. But I also bought some tools in 2025, and that's fun to talk about too. So let's look at those. Early in 2025 is when the Festool journey started. I've made a couple of videos about this equipment. So just a quick rundown here. I bought the Festool CleanTech, the CT Midi, and that's really just the vacuum and the hose here. And then on top of it is the Tradesman kit, which has the larger hose and floor sweep and stuff. I like it a lot, but for a lot more detail, go look at the other video that I made about it. I'll link to it. I also got a Festool Domino a little later in the year. Despite cutting pretty much all the joinery that I do by hand, I really don't enjoy doing a mortise and tenon. So decided this was a worthwhile purchase. So for those who might not know, the Festool Domino here cuts mortises of varying sizes, and this fancy tool has a lot of great adjustments and is very stable and makes repeatable cuts very easily. And there's a good bit of flexibility to the size of the cuts that it can make and the size of the tenons that it can use. So it will do a lot. The Domino will cut all sorts of sizes of tenons with the different bits here. So I also got the assortment of tenons to be able to, use whatever sizes I might need. I feel like this still looks pretty full, but I don't know, I've probably used at least 50 this year in various projects. The wall shelf for my son, the speaker stands, some assembly of the lower tool cabinet. Anyway, what's great about this is that it's a tool that lets me do a part of the job that I find less fun, so I can get to the parts that I find more fun. I bought these dovetail marking gauges from Union Manufacturing, I think is their name. The 90-degree one is just straight up and down, and of course the 1 to 8 is a bit of an angle. I think it's probably the angle that I most use and prefer, but yeah, I just thought these would be fun to have just to be able to make marking dovetails a little bit easier. The way they work is they, simply sit here on the corner and you use a pencil or a marking knife. I'll typically use a pencil to mark the angles and the depth of the tails and pins, and makes it a little easier to be repeatable, and they're nice. My wife gave me a few things for Christmas, including this Rockler clamp. The end here is designed to fit up to a 2.5-inch hose, so vacuum or dust collection. And I think that'll be handy just to be able to clamp it onto spots and help hold the hose in place. In particular, I think it'll probably be useful with the lathe. I often set up sort of a balancing act to have the hose of the dust extractor over the lathe bed to help when I'm sanding. But the clamp will, I think, help make it a little easier to hold it in a good spot. Honestly, I just clipped this here just now. I have not actually tried this, to see if I can get it positioned just right, but that's the idea. I think it'll be good. So the other new item from my wife is this Reed Howard adjuster. You might have seen it on the Wood by Right channel. And the idea is that the ball bearing here lets the lets the adjuster move a whole lot easier. And for my Lie-Nielsen 102, I thought that would be fantastic. I've got a white bronze number 102 here, and figured it would be an easy thing to swap out. So all I need to do is unscrew this adjuster and drop in the new one. I was careful to make sure I ordered the correct thread size adjuster, and it does fit correctly. However, the bearing is too large. I'm not throwing any shade at James or anything, because in his video he even mentions how many variations there are of this. And so, I don't know, is it possible I've got a totally different one? I'm not sure. I've been in contact with him, and we're discussing the difference. But for right now, it doesn't fit, and yeah, it doesn't fit. I can't use it. Not too many new tool purchases in the past year, but I've got a pretty complete kit, so I'm not in a real major acquisition phase of my woodworking experience. A few other things that stand out from the past year. I went to 2 events. In May was the Fine Woodworking New England event, and that was great. You know, a lot to see. It rained horribly. And then in August, I went to the Maine Woodworking event in Maine, and that was a lot of fun. It was definitely a very different vibe than the Fine Woodworking event. And even though I feel like there was less woodworking, I feel like it was a lot more fun. And then throughout the year, I somehow always get to squeeze in some other stops that somehow turn into some woodworking adjacent stuff. Visiting Mystic Seaport again jumps into my mind, and Old Sturbridge Village also has some good stuff to look at too. And my wife and I went there as well. I'm sure there are many other stops that we made that I'm forgetting about, where I noticed something that piqued my interest. Anyway, that sums up 2025, I think, as far as woodworking goes. And yeah, what was your year like? Did you get new tools? Did you build stuff? Tell me. Any questions, throw them in the comments. Thanks for watching. Bye.